lost in the forest. First off, let me say that I am a loser. This is 1 year ago. I was caught kissing a married coworker in a parking lot by my husband's friends. They immediately called him and told him. He came home from work immediately with our 15-year-old son in tow and called me every name in the book and every single bad name you can think of right in front of our son. He told me to get out and took my wedding ring off my finger. Prior to this going down, I was unhappy with him due to some very bad behavior on his part. He likes to drink to the point where he can hardly walk, and it's rather embarrassing to be his babysitter all the time. One night after we had bowling, I went to put my stuff in my car and he remained inside for 45 minutes drinking, knowing I was out waiting for him in the car. I did not want to deal with his drunk body, so I just sat there playing Tetris on my phone. But when he finally stumbled out of the alley, I was not very nice to him and told him I hated when he acted like such a loser. He then proceeded to tell me I was fat and he could get 13 girls that would just love to line up for him. I told him I would drop him off at the bar and let him have his fun. He became increasingly angry at me and told me he hated me. We got home and he's so drunk he passes out on our bed on a diagonal angle. I woke him and told him to move over, and he sat up and got out of bed and threw up in the hallway all over the carpet, and my 15-year-old was there to help his dad clean it up. I should have left him then. This is not the first time he called me such mean things. I have repeatedly told him that calling me fat is seriously depressing the hell out of me. I am not fat. I am not the 115-pound stick figure I was when we first met at 16 years old, but I'm not fat. This name-calling has gone on for about 12 of the 20 years we have been together. So, I moved out and in with my best friend once I was discovered in the parking lot. The guy was also married and hated his married life. He was telling me all the wonderful things I had been longing to hear. He told me how beautiful, smart, sexy, and funny I was, and I totally fell for it. It's in hindsight pretty foolish on my part to think anything good was going to come from being the other woman. My husband was begging me to come home for about 3 months after this all happened, and I refused. I was so hurt and angry, and seeing a therapist that informed me that the husband is a narcissist and I am codependent, always caring about how everyone else is, rather than me. During the summer, we tried talking a few times and he kept being abusive and drinking. I tried to come back home to him in October and set a goal date of Thanksgiving. And all of a sudden, it was too soon and I should have come home sooner, etc. I found out later that he went on a few dates, one of which was his counselor that was mandatory from probation. Another is some woman we both know. I stopped talking to him again once he blew me off and chose drinking over being with me. Christmas came and he took our 16-year-old to Florida because he just couldn't deal with the holidays if I was not home. I was all alone for Christmas and wanted to kill myself. Now we are talking again for about 2 months. I just don't feel he is putting in any effort and seems very shut off and distant. I know what I did was wrong and extremely remorseful, but I can't be the only one trying to make things work. I apologize to him all the time and pay him compliments, but he still does things that bother me. He will stonewall me for hours and not answer my texts. When I ask him when I can come back home, all I get is an, "Don't you think we should make sure this is going to work before you just move back in?" Not sure. I'm not sure how we can work on things when still living separate lives. Yes, I am just afraid nothing is going to change on his end, and he will keep doing the things from the past that got us to the point they got to. Ever once did I ever make fun of his physical appearance and make him feel bad about himself? I spent years begging him to stop. I just don't know what to do anymore. Do I keep fighting for this or just give up and move on? Comments. Let me get this straight. But you're a cheater and he's an abuser. Both of those things would be deal breakers for me. Here's only advice I can give you. Keep your husband, but don't get into another relationship for at least another year and get into counseling to work on your need for drama issues. All I can think about is what all this drama is doing to your son. He's witnessing most of it. By what you said, you need to get some counseling starting immediately. Your husband is abusive. What is it that you want to go back to? He doesn't seem to be showing any remorse for his behavior or making any changes. Are you afraid to be alone?
I don't expect to be told how smart, pretty funny I am all the time.
But I also do not expect to be put down and made to feel worthless either. Just when the name calling happens, it hurts so bad and I tell him that all the time. He's gotten better with that, but then again, we have not been living together for the past year. I feel so horrible for becoming the one thing I always said I would never do. I asked him to go to counseling with me right after the last incident happened, which was on the anniversary of my mother's death. I might add, and asked him to please be nice to me that day, as I was just already sad and feeling down. I was always a great wife and would never consider doing this to him. Something clicked that night. He insulted me so bad. I emotionally checked out of our relationship, asked him to go see a marriage counselor, and he said we didn't need one and we could fix things on our own. He tells me he is who he is and I cannot change him. My son is with his father. He's very much liked his father in some ways. A lot of times I felt lonely in my own home. They were both into sports, watching not playing. So there would be a lot of nights I would go to bed at 7 or 8 because I didn't want to watch ESPN SportsCenter for the 5th exact story replay. He stonewalls and ignores me like his dad. He just got a job too, so time is now really limited. I try to get him to talk to me about things, but all I get are one-word answers, and he says he has no questions for me. I know that he knows how abusive his father can be verbally, but I kept a lot of it to myself. I asked him to see a counselor with me, but he refuses. I tell him I love him every day, and he knows none of this is his fault. It's crazy that you say he will use the affair against me for the rest of my life, as he does not let things go. I am making a list of boundaries I am setting and asking him to agree to it or we can't be together. I also know he may come back with things he wants, like access to phone, email, etc. And I am okay with that. He also signed up for Facebook over the summer, so now I worry about that. I don't have FBOB, so he now has an outlet to get back at me, which I fear will happen. I just love him so much, and I see him falling apart financially since I moved out too. His credit has gone down, and I feel he used money. He had to go out and have a good time rather than keeping up with his bills. I still pay some of the bills there that have my name in them. I know what I did was wrong. As having a hard time forgiving myself, not only for what I did to my husband, but for his family as well. I wish I could take it back, but I cannot change the past. My husband wasn't a total drunk 24/7, and he could be really sweet and do nice things. We went through a lot together. We grew up together. We both lost our mothers at a young age. His tragically and mine died slowly over years. We had a child very young. I just wonder if we got stuck in the 16-year-old mentality of how relationships work. When I talk to him about his drinking and say it is not healthy and won't solve anything, he says it makes his problems disappear temporarily. I can handle him having a few beers. I just cannot handle the binge drinking and how he acts when he does a bunch of shots. It's almost like dealing with a toddler. He claims to be an Ike, but I don't think he is gone for a few months now. I go every other week as I cannot afford to go every week. I'm just afraid to lose what we used to have, still holding out that things will change. I just don't want him to find someone else and treat them how I have been begging to be treated. That's a month later update. So we went to lunch last Friday, and I asked to see his FB as I was curious about it. I refuse to get one as I feel it is a waste of time and too much drama that I do not wish to get involved in, and am now being dragged into the drama. He used to feel the same way, but guess he had a change of heart while we were separated. So he hands over his phone and I clicked over to the messages, and I see that she contacted him the day earlier asking how he was. He replied with okay, just been working. Her response to him was, well, I bet you are still sexy. What the heck? He did not reply back, at least that I saw. When I got upset, he grabbed his phone away with a wild look of panic in his eyes and refused to give it back. Because I know this woman, I texted her and asked if she knew that the H and I were talking again, to which she replied, I just is, and she is not a homewrecker and blah blah blah. I then asked why she felt it was appropriate to tell my husband he is sexy, knowing he is working on things with his wife. I assume she tells this to hundreds of men because that is the kind of lady she is. Her response was, isn't it better it come from a mutual friend rather than some strange woman who has no respect for you? Is she kidding me? How is that respectful? What am I supposed to do? I can't stop thinking about it, even though I was the one that had the emotional affair. I'm trying to move forward with this man, but if he is going to continue to be secretive and hide these women from me, I cannot deal with it. How do I get him to delete FB completely and get that mess out of our lives? I feel once we are back in solid ground, he can have it back, and I won't care. Just right now, it seems too sensitive to have it active. I tell him he is handsome and sexy all the time. Even while we were separated, I never found him unattractive. What I found unattractive was how he treated me for years, calling me fat, etc. I'm insecure because of him. I just don't want to move on if he is not going to be honest with me and be transparent. I have offered him my phone and email passwords, and he should do the same. His actions are shady sometimes, and I just don't want to move back home if he is going to continue to lie and get back at me for what I did. I also text him randomly just to say hi or say something silly. Almost half a year later, I am here because I want to divorce my husband. We have been together since we were 16 years old and have a 16-year-old son who is graduating this year. We were separated for a year and they moved back into the house in May. This year, well, I hate to admit this, I had an emotional affair and was caught kissing the other man in a parking lot by my husband's friends. He immediately kicked me out of the house, which I do not blame him for, as I would have done the same. He's been emotionally and verbally exhausted and a few times physically exhausted in the past 12 years. However, when it turns physical, I can defend myself and have in the past. The emotional abuse hurts more. He used to call me fat, thick, etc. He's not called me that for over a year now, because I told him I would literally exhaust him if he ever said that to me again. So here we are back into a relationship and trying to work on things, but the nitpicks and nags at every stupid little thing are driving me crazy. I have asked him to share financial information with me, as I never know what he has coming in or what he has to pay out, and it has been that way for years. To me, that is not a marriage. When you are married, everything should be shared. I have asked him a few times about getting the bills together and going over things, and he is yet to do so. I have told him that his Facebook bothers me because I do not have one and have no idea who he is talking to. He is very secretive about his phone, and I feel he may be having a revenge affair and just stringing me along to pay for the bills that I pay. I put down boundaries, and he just crossed them every time. I asked him to please not text and drive while I am in the vehicle, and he just disregards my request and does it anyway. It makes me feel totally unsafe and anxious. A few weeks back, we went to a concert, and he got upset because I went out to smoke with my cousin. When we came back in, she and I went to the bathroom, and I joked with her that I dropped her phone in the toilet. So we came back out and found him and his friend, and I told him about the joke I played on her, and he said, "Yeah, well, you smell like crap." I knew he was talking about the cigarette smoke smell, so I snapped back. "Well, when we were apart and you were with Angie, you probably didn't mind since she is a smoker. So why give me a hard the time and be so controlling?" Without even a second to let the words I said register, he exhausted me in my face in a crowded bar with my cousin and his friends standing right there. I still cannot believe he exhausted me like that in a public place. He's brushing it off like it is not a big deal because he did not exhaust me that hard. What the heck? He apologized later that night, and I said, "Yeah, because apologizing makes it okay, right?" He says it is no different than when we are messing around, and you tell me to shut up and slap my face. First of all, when we are messing around, it is never out of anger and is never hard at all. Usually laughing and smiling are happening, not mean dirty looks like he gave me that night. So it's been 3 weeks and I still don't know what to do. I cannot let him keep crossing the boundaries I am laying down. physical exhaustion, texting and driving, and financial information shared are boundaries I told him about before I moved back in. Yet here we are, almost 6 months later, and he is breaking them all down like they don't mean anything. I'm tired of being disrespected, and it is really hard for me to respect someone that has zero respect for me. He's been taking off for hours on end with little to no communications, and so I sit there at the house just waiting for him to come home or text back and let me know what is going on. I've had enough. I will no longer sit and wait for him to come home. I will pack up my stuff and hit the gym or go to a friend or anything to get out of the house. My question is, how do you tell someone so controlling that it is over and I want to divorce and be on my own? I've had enough. I've had a few talks with him in the past 2 months, telling him I am not happy and clearly he is not happy either, so maybe we should go our own way. It falls on deaf ears, and the next day he thinks things are okay. He's told me that it is my fault for abandoning him, that he kicked me out, and that's why his credit is so screwed up now. And for 5 months after I moved out, I still paid most of the bills at the house, even though I was not living there. My guess is his many bar nights out and treating everyone for drinks made it impossible for him to keep up on his bills. They make about the same, and I figured that if I can make it on my own, so can he. A week later, I told him it is over. He is, of course, flipping it around on me, making me feel like the bad guy. But I am remaining calm and not letting him change my mind. He says he doesn't feel good enough and feels like a failure. With all the nitpicking and nagging, I feel like I can't say or do anything right, and who wants to live life like that? I filled out application for a 1-bedroom apartment close to work, and I'm just waiting to hear back if they approve me or not and when I can move in. Scared to go home and continue the conversation. She admitted it was wrong. I asked her why she wouldn't come to me sooner, take me to her therapist, and get consoling when there was an urge to cheat. She didn't know. I told her when we met that I've been cheated on twice in the past with women I've dated, and that to never do that to me is what hurts the worst. Though we don't fight much at all, besides the lack of intimacy. I really have nothing bad to say about the marriage. She's very supportive. We both are paying down debt, have no kids yet, own a condo together, and are planning for our futures together. My question is, what do I do? One friend from college has told me that I should kick her out, call a lawyer, and be done with it. He asked if I want to live my life as a warden or corrections officer, always having to look over her shoulders to make sure she is being truthful. I've read that trust can be rebuilt, and sometimes it is stronger than it was before an incident. I do love her, but I'm just devastated. Her ex-beer is supposedly her Gmail password and a written timeline at home on my counter for me. She left to take care of things I had requested before she flew out for work Sunday. However, when she left, I waited and left myself. So, by her talks with her sister, the timeline is on the counter. As for what to do with it, I don't know. Put it to the counselor on Monday. Scan it and keep it for future lawyer visits. Quick update. Sunday, I told my wife she had to leave. I need space. She told me she would leave, and she said she would take care of what I asked for. Her Gmail password was written down, not inputted into her web browser, so all I see is garbage. Just a written timeline of the affair and a no communication contract were also there. Shortly after she left, around noon, I left for the airport and flew to see my father. She returned and supposedly left what I had asked for, then flew out to see you at 4 p.m. Last night, I called a friend, a life coach who taught a life book class we both took and attended in Chicago. She reached out to me on Facebook, knowing about betrayal, and said I could call her. We talked for an hour. She basically said, either way, I will have to rebuild my trust in people, either with my wife or with another woman eventually. She told me not to screen calls or text, but to reply with 1 or 2 word answers, and keep any phone calls from her short. This morning, I found the wife's sister. Her daughters 8-12 love me, and I am close with her sister and brother-in-law. I know they are on her side of the family, but I just called to talk. We talked for an hour. She cried. She is shocked. She told her sister to get help. She feels awful. And as I pointed out earlier, one of my requests for my wife was to reach out to a family member and talk to them. She isn't accustomed to doing this. She did as I requested Sunday and talked for an hour, explained it all to her sister. I did not want to ask for details or take sides or feed her sister any info, so I didn't. Her sister told me the last time she talked to her, she got home with what I had requested and I was gone already. She was worried about me and about what will happen. Today, my wife called. We have an appointment Monday, 9 a.m. with the counselor. I told her to make it a 2-hour appointment, not 1. She is paying. She's paying $800 to fly back Cedric and leave Monday afternoon, as she will be done and see a second week of May. As for those who say travel is an issue here, I get 13 to 15 days off a month. I am always reachable. And if I need to call in sick to be home to take care of something, I do it. My wife told me if she could take this week off, she would, but she trains in hospitals how to use their cell phones. And she is the only one out there to do the job. She did tell me her therapist will get in touch with her soon about a phone call appointment, which she normally does not do. Sometime by the end of the week, my wife couldn't talk long, was on a break, but said she will call tonight when I asked if there was anything else she needed to share or add some more pieces to things missing in this mess. That is what I know as of now. Thanks for the input. I'm reading it, processing it. Sorry, I'm not on 24/7 and trying to relax at my father's house, get my mind off things and process. Comments, Opiersep. You must now be diligent to ascertain your wife's true feelings. This is no easy task and will require a very level head and calm approach. Do things that are in short supply in situations such as this. However, from what you last posted, your wife does seem interested in saving the marriage, but to what depth does her sincerity reach? You will have to try to glean this information over the next weeks and months. I find it a little troubling that your wife did not think this an emergency worth taking off time from work, her required expertise notwithstanding. This is her marriage after all, but perhaps I am too critical, as I oftentimes tend to be. I place very little ahead of my relationship in importance, but I'm somewhat unique. It's in any event. Use this time to collect your thoughts and make the difficult decisions that you now face regarding continuing on in this relationship. You will be guided by her actions if you are sensitively perceptive, not allowing your judgment to be clouded by emotion to the extent that is possible. I wish you well. Why would you want to spend the rest of your life always looking over your shoulder and always wondering? If she was that concerned about the marriage, the last place she would want to be is in California. Not to mention that she doesn't want you to contact the other man's wife. Contact the woman and let her know. She deserves to know what her husband is doing, and I'll bet the house that your wife already let the other man know she got busted, and he's stepping and fetching away to hand his wife. A story that some lady at work has a crazy husband. And he's hurling accusations about him and her, so you just might be $1 short and a day late. Go find a lawyer, cut your losses, and get on with your life before it's too late. Up responds, we meet for 2 hours with the marriage counselor Monday. I may make my decision then. I flew down south today, alone for 3 days to clear my head. The affair was physical. The person was also brought over to our condo, and stuff happened in our condo. She has repeated to me that nothing happened in the bedroom. I told her in a text up so he wanted to sleep around, but not take you to his house to do it. He must have respected his wife to some degree with that decision. She had a talk with her therapist today. I asked to three-way in. The therapist didn't think it was wise, as this was the first time the therapist got to talk to her after I learned of the affair. The therapist is willing to meet with both of us after today, though. His wife told me in a text when I asked if she got something out of the call with the therapist. It was good to be able to talk to her without interruption or judgment. Sharing and processing was good. I am looking forward to our time with the MC. She's also searching for another job. Monday will be the big day when we meet with the MC. I'm not expecting miracles. I will be looking up lawyers tomorrow when I am on the beach. She told me the guy's wife found an email from her to her husband and confronted her husband about it. To the affair ended, a no-contact agreement was made, and there has been no contact since. So the condo will be sold. Either way, divorce or reconcile. That is no longer a safe haven for me to call home. 1 month later, update. Last Monday we went to our couples counselor and it went well. Our next appointment is this Friday. We got a lot out of it and know it will be a new road in fixing this. I called the PI off. The PI told me she thought it was morally wrong having me deliver a letter to the guy's wife. She said she would make a special case to do it for me, but in the past, it has not gone well. She has seen a woman try to X herself, beat her kids or husband, destroy the house, etc. I couldn't live with that, and I think by delivering a letter, it is more out of revenge. My STEAD test came back negative. We spent last weekend talking, enjoying each other's company, and spending a TV day in bed. She vows never to hurt me like this again, and will do whatever it takes to prove that. Last week, she surprised me on one of my airline overnights with a next day package. This had a little book in it we used to write in stories to the other person. This week, she gave me 4 envelopes for each day of my trip to open. She also is doing more FaceTime video calls with me. We're having deeper conversations, and she is outlining her day for me. She is looking for a new job and is willing to move, relocate out of our condo. She and I are reading two books our counselor suggested, Surviving an Affair and After the Affair. Good reads. We have had bonded, and she has told me this is the husband she married and missed. He's more physical, deeper conversations, acknowledging her when I am with her, etc. We still have a long road, but we both want to work on fixing this and becoming stronger. The OTSU escapes an email from my wife to her husband and emailed my wife to stop contact. This was last November. Then, shortly after the no contact letter was sent to my wife, I'm open to revisiting pursuing the OPU down the road, but the PI and counselor both did not advise that right now. My wife does have hard work to do. She repeatedly tells me she is very sorry. She hurt me this bad and affected our marriage. From what I gathered, the other man was working on salvaging his marriage. There has been no contact. She went into the office once this past week, felt a lot of anxiety, and told me he was not there. As he tends to work remote, she's actively looking for a new place to work. My wife knows she messed up, how bad this hurts both of us, has admitted to that, and we are both working on it. To think I'm letting her off easy, I would disagree. There are still talks and feelings I have where I am deeply hurt. She listens and understands and promises it will get better in time, and she has to work extra hard to ensure that. My comment: what do you guys think of story 1, and what you guys think of a reconciliation ending for story 2? Is it something you dislike, or is it situational based? Let me know down in the comments, and I will see you in the next one.